Hello again, world literature students. I'm talking to you today about your first writing assignment that is due Sunday night, June the 12th at 11:59 p.m. And it is your job in this writing assignment to find an article from a library database. I emailed you and told you that if you are a student at another college or university or have access to another college or university library database, you could use that. If you're going to use the Kilgore College library database, I'll tell you a little bit about how it works. But you can use others. You're going to need to find an article over something that we've been reading this week or will read this weekend or the very first part of next week, which would be the Enuma Elish, or the Epic of Gilgamesh, or the Book of Genesis, or even the short passages from the Quran. So articles over any of those. I would prefer articles of a literary nature, in other words, over literary aspects of the work. That would be a little more difficult with Genesis and definitely the Quran, but it can be done. And what you'll do is find an article. It should be, hopefully, a relatively brief article. The one that I had found over the Book of Job that I posted the article and the sample summary in response to was 3 pages. You'll be lucky to find an article that brief, but 5 to 7 pages would be ideal, because you don't want to have to summarize a 25-page article. I don't want to have to read a summary of a 25-page article. But a relatively short article over some element. It doesn't have to be over the entire work. In fact, with Genesis, you might type in Genesis 1, chapters 1 through 3, because it should be over some passages of Genesis that we read. And so it could be over some of the symbolism used in one of the works. It could be, for instance, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the use of number symbolism, or it could be about a particular character. So it doesn't have to be about the work as a whole. You need to find the article, read it, obviously, take notes, and then from the notes you would write a summary of the main ideas of the article. And then the rest of your paper will be a response to one of the points made in the article. For example, if you were reading an article over the Epic of Gilgamesh and it talked about how women were portrayed in the epic, and it said that based on the representation of women in the epic, women were revered more in the Mesopotamian culture than in some of the other ancient cultures. Well, you could go back to the epic itself, look at some passages about women, maybe at Gilgamesh's mother, the harlot who tames Enkidu, Sujuri, Ishtar, any of the other women, and see if you agree. So you would then support your point of view, with the primary source. What does it say, in your opinion, about women, if that were the topic? So that's what you're supposed to do in this writing assignment. The purpose is to give you some experience looking for articles on the databases, because that's going to be the chief source I'm going to want you to use in your critical analysis, and of course also to give you some added insight into what you've been reading this week, or what you will be reading the first part of next week. When you find the article, it would probably be a good idea to print it out. This is my copy of the article. This is printed in HTML, which if you print it out like that, it will give you, when you hit the print button, it will give you the option of what format the works cited or bibliographic information will show up in. And if you click MLA, it will give you the MLA format, or as close as they have it. You do need to check with the Little Brown Handbook and make sure that it does match. There are a few things that might be different. Capitalization might be one. You can sometimes find articles, the whole thing, the whole title will be capitalized. And in an MLA, you don't do that. You capitalize it as it should be capitalized normally. So little things like that, you might want to double check, or you should double check. If you print it out in PDF format, it will appear just as it appeared in the journal or the reference book or whatever it was originally in, and you'll have to click a little link called Detailed Record. It's up in the upper left-hand corner of the page if you're using the Kilgore College Library databases, and it will give you once again a choice of what type of documentation, and if you hit MLA it'll print it that way. So you'll need to be sure and click that Detailed Record if it's a PDF format. As I mentioned, if you're going to use the Kilgore College databases, there are a couple of ways you can get to the library website. One, you can go to kilgore.edu and scroll down to the bottom, and the library will be one of your choices. If you're on our Blackboard page, you can click Student Resources at the top, and the library website will have a link right there on the right hand side. You can click there. When you get to the database or to the library website itself, there's a place that says Databases and Indexes right at the top, and that's what you'll click. And when you click Databases, it will bring you to an alphabetical listing of the databases that Kilgore College subscribes to. Each database will have journal, magazine, reference book articles over these different literary works. Some of the best of the databases that you could use, whether it's on our library website or one of the others, would be Academic Search Complete, Bloom's Literature, and there's one called Literary Reference Center, Literary Criticism Online, Literature Resource Center, Gale Literary Databases, so any of those. And then what comes up after that, if it's through Kilgore, you'll have a password page that you'll have to go through. It will give you instructions of what you need to do for the password. You'll need to know your student ID for that. And then it will take you to what looks like a search engine, and that's where you'll type in your keywords to find the article. Like I said, you might limit some of them if you're interested in something specific from one of the works. When you're writing your paper, be sure you introduce the title of the article and the author's name in the first paragraph of your paper before you begin summarizing it. And then be sure that you include a works cited page that lists both the article and the primary source. And if you look at my example that I've posted, my article was Risking a Happy Ending by Martin Copenhaver. It was over the Book of Job, and I know we didn't read the Book of Job, but that's one of the reasons I did it. I didn't think I'd be stepping on anybody's toes using an article that they wanted to use. But you can look at my works cited page, and there's a sample for the primary source. The Book of Job was translated by someone else in our former edition of the textbook, and that's the edition that I've used, so it's going to be a little different from your edition. Anyway, please email me if you have questions about this, because I know it's your first writing assignment. You will need to submit it both to the Blackboard website. There's an assignment page for it, and also to turnitin.com. I have emailed you your course ID and password, so that you should have that in order to submit your paper there. As far as the Epic of Gilgamesh itself, I'm going to wait until I've read more of your forum postings. I've read a couple of interesting ones, but not very many have posted yet. If you look back on the first forum, I did respond to everybody, so if you want to go back and see what I had to say, you're welcome to, and if you want to respond to it, that's fine or not. On this next forum, I probably won't respond to everyone. I'll respond to some, and then I'll have a general posting that is a response to everybody. Happy reading, and email me with questions. Talk to you later.